This event is organized by the global campaign Culture 2030 Goal in the frame of the United Nations High-Level Political Forum 2020. We are a group of global and international cultural networks. If we truly want the UN 2030 agenda to be people-centered, then we need culture to be recognized as a pillar of sustainable development. We know, you know, everybody knows that cultural initiatives and practices are drivers of freedoms and rights, and they bring meaning and motivation and provide coherence to the implementation and localization of the agenda.
As Americans for the Arts said in 2017, we think that arts are fundamental to our humanity. They ennoble and inspire us, fostering creativity, goodness, and beauty. The arts brings us joy, helps us express our values, and build bridges between cultures. The arts are also a fundamental component of a healthy community, as many of you have said, strengthening them socially, educationally, and economically, benefits that exist even in difficult social and economic times.
We know that culture is a way of diversifying the way we connect to people and also preserving various persons' lives, traditions, and cultural heritage.
We found that the arts can support social determinants of health, including promoting social cohesion and reducing social inequalities. They can help in child development, such as mother-infant bonding, speech and language development, and educational attainment. They can support in caregiving in terms of how we understand and conceptualize health, but also in terms of the clinical skills and well-being of staff. They can help to prevent ill health by promoting well-being, positive mental health, helping to reduce negative effects of trauma or cognitive decline or frailty. And the arts are even linked in with longevity.
The more culture is taken into account, the more real the place of each citizen will be in the construction of the inclusive and peaceful society. Giving room to culture means allowing all population to feel taken into account, to feel confronted in the effort to build an exemplary, peaceful society in which all life is harmony, and therefore with the sole ambition of contributing to development.
I wanted to talk a little bit, as Jordi said, about the Culture COVID-19 statement. Why another statement? Among the members of the coalition, we certainly had this discussion, given the excellent work already done at the global level by UNESCO and also at the regional and national levels. However, we saw the need to make the connection clearly and openly between culture, COVID-19, and the UN 2030 agenda. The same logic of interlinkages and synergies that applies across the SDGs applies also, and indeed acutely so, to the response to COVID-19. In welcoming the decision to focus this year's high-level political forum on COVID-19, we wanted it to be clear that now, more than ever, culture, cultural actors, and cultural concerns need to be at the center, not the periphery of policy making.
As many countries experience confinement, the vital necessity of culture for social cohesion, education, and well-being was particularly brought to light, and that's something that everybody is recognizing.
Culture brings inspiration, comfort, and hope into people's life and promotes well-being and resilience. This is particularly important during the challenging times, such as this pandemic.
The story of the people matters. The doctors, nurses, frontline workers, survivors, family members, and communities, and everyone's voices must be included. When people live through trauma, it is important that they have the opportunity to talk about their experiences, to be heard, and to heal.
The past few months have demonstrated that we, as culture and creative operators, are something that we already knew. We are resourceful, we are resilient and inventive even in these very hard times.
During the emergency, culture has proven to be a very powerful tool to promote the well-being and resilience of our community.
The role of the culture in this pandemic has been key. At first, cultural helped us to cope the uncertainty confinement, to go through the crisis. Cultural has also served to express what is happening, as well as to give meaning to all this experience. It has been a tool to articulate communities despite the physical distance, and now in some territories that have begun existing of the lockdown, it can become an engine to reactivate the economy from a new paradigm.
We still have to have promoting hope. We still have to promote thinking of possibility for planning for a future. We can contribute to rethink and to help to imagine this future. We see that politicians are at the end of their imagination, so to speak. And we have a big responsibility.
I'll be presenting the report on behalf of our campaign, the drafting of which ICOMOS was tasked with, along with contributions from our partners. It was launched last September on the occasion of the SDG Summit and submitted to the HLPF 2020 as well as an input on the inputs platform. Going back very quickly to the background of the report, how it was initiated, we have the driving question in our campaign: how can culture contribute as a fourth pillar of sustainable development?
We are convinced that processes related to culture, that is heritage, creativity, and diversity, are at the core of life and must be at the core of sustainable development. We are convinced that sustainable development will only be achieved if its cultural dimension is explicitly acknowledged in international and national agendas and becomes fully operational in short-term, mid-term, and long-term policies and programs. If we truly want the UN 2030 agenda to be people-centered, then we need culture to be recognized as a pillar of sustainable development.
This call to action will galvanize the multilateral effort to fulfill potential of culture as we build better and create the future we want. This is especially important in this moment as the interlinkage between culture and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development are becoming more evident to experts and policymakers.
I think that having arts and culture are critical elements of an equitable framework. They reflect the power of communities, as we have highlighted. If you are able to harness the soft power of the community, then we're able to influence structural oppression and change and accomplish these sustainable development goals.
While the arguments we've made for the arts across our reports from the World Health Organization is that they can provide solutions to challenges where we currently don't have solutions. They're also often very cost effective because they tackle multiple different aspects of health and social determinants of health. And they also help us to achieve many different priorities already agreed globally. Finally, the arts are important because we've got challenges on resources, particularly in the wake of COVID. We need every sector to step up and play a role in the recovery from this. And the arts and cultural sector is incredibly well placed to do so.
I believe that it's necessary to put our energy into guaranteeing these rights from all people, especially for the most vulnerable, so that we can create more solidarity cities of resilience that are capable of imagining and innovating ways to overcome this crisis and inhabiting as a community, a post-pandemic world that is sustainable for nature and humanity, in which all the sustainable development goals become a reality.
Let's continue this effort. Culture is very important in our life. It plays important role, and it is whatever we do and toward the achievement of the goal that we set ourselves, culture is at the center of it.
First of all, we need governments at all levels to see culture and cultural institutions as both a source of vital information and insights to inform policy as well as a partner in delivering its policy decisions. Secondly, we need to include cultural issues in our calculations and indicator basis, as UNESCO is already doing. Thirdly, we need strong signals from the highest levels, such as from the President of the United Nations General Assembly, in order to show the way. And finally, of course, we need to work within our own fields to build understanding of the potential libraries have to support development and help realize this.
In this, we would recommend that all stakeholders consider culture from the outset in national development planning, have wider consultation mechanisms, including cultural actors, have a coherent global community around culture, have a UN high-level meeting on culture, and have better dissemination of existing evidence and collection of new data. Improvements, promote local SDG implementation in context of local cultural actors, and also looking at ourselves to be self-critical, we should strengthen our own efforts as the cultural sector in mainstreaming into the SDGs.
I feel that the statement and the report will be key accelerator or share their thoughts to advocate for culture in the 2030 agenda. What you are doing, building on policy advices about knowledge building, cooperation, and advocacy effort, I'm convinced that we can prompt the contribution of culture to building a more sustainable future.
It is my pleasure to endorse the Culture 2030 goal statement entitled, Ensuring Culture Fulfill its Potential in Responding to the COVID pandemic. I call on government, UN agencies, and all stakeholders to endorse the Culture 2030 goal statement and reflect upon and act in pursuit of its guiding principles.